I'd like to welcome everybody to the September quarterly meeting for Economic Development Corporation. On behalf of Clay County and the economic development effort down here, welcome and thank you for coming, because without you guys, we don't even exist. So let me do some introductions, because we have a lot of them. We have me. I'm on the Economic Development Board. We got. I'm gonna call these names, and this time I'm gonna ask if the person whose name I call would stand up and remain standing until everybody's standing, which would probably be half the room. And then at the end, we'll give them all a round of applause, and then they can sit down. So first, our county manager, Stephanie Kapelousis. This is in no particular order. She's over there already standing. We have Wayne Bowler, Commissioner-elect, District 2. I saw, here he is. Doug Conkey, County Commissioner. Thanks, Doug. Representative Travis Hudson, District 24, Florida House. Van Royal, Economic Development Board Member. You can tell Van because he's the tallest one standing so far. David Meyer, the EDC Board. We've got Ted McGowan on the ED Board. Cherie Stewart from County Commissioner. Oh, stay standing. Wendell Davis, County Commissioner. Great, Wendell. Diane Hutchins, County Commissioner. Great turnout from the county. That's what makes this county so much fun to work in, because the commissioners are so involved in what's going on day to day that it really makes a difference. Jim Horn, is he here? He signed up. Did he pay his money? As long as he paid his money on it. Joe Pickens, president of St. John's River State College. Joe? There he is. Dr. Anna Liebisch, EDC board member. Chris Jambliss, supervisor of elections. Yep, hey Chris. Tara Green, clerk of the court. Charlie Van Sant, superintendent of schools. Hey Charlie. We have, almost skipped a page, that would have been a disaster. We have, you know what, that's about the end of it. Anybody I missed? We do have, hang on. I understand we have Orange Park's town manager here. Yes, we do, yes. And Travis, are you still here? Travis Cummings? Yes, he is. Hey, Travis. So that's it. Thank you for your service, everybody. Oh, and Chad Patrick, who was also the ED board member. I don't know how you didn't get on this list. Okay. And before we get into the invocation, I would like to introduce, you all know Bill, but we've actually added one staff person that made his life a lot easier. Carrie Fricky, over here, is responsible for setting this whole thing up today and pulled in volunteers to help. She just did a great job, so she's there. Okay, so now if Robert Gauger, could you do the invocation and the pledge? I think you're right here. Over there. Okay, great. It's all yours.
Let's stand for both the invocation and the pledge. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, who provides more and gives more to us than we can ever possibly imagine, both those things which we know and those things which we don't. Father, we thank you for the food that has been prepared. Father, we also thank you for the gift of leadership. Father, we do pray that the vision that has been cast in these leaders would come to fruition, that you would bless Clay County, and this area would be blessed because of the vision of this group of people. In your most gracious, wonderful, precious, holy name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and before I bring Bill up, I would like to recognize Ashley Gilhausen, who is a candidate for School Board District 5. Ashley, stand up. And I would introduce any other candidates, but she's the one that came, so. Okay, and, so I'm going to turn it over to Bill now, let him do his little dog and pony show, and then we can eat.
Good morning, everyone, and let me just say, wow. This is a great, great turnout. It's a record turnout for us, and it means a lot to me personally and to our organization for everybody to be here. The draw for this event today is our panel, I'm sure. It's a blue ribbon panel of transportation experts. Mr. Moody Chisholm is the chairman of the Business and Transportation Alliance. He will moderate and give a keynote presentation and moderate a panel discussion. We have Secretary Greg Evans from District 2 FDOT. We have Jeff Sheffield, Executive Director of the TPO, and Brad Thoburn with the JTA. So please, I know that's why you're here is for transportation. I hope you've thought about some good questions. We have a few to get it started. If you have a transportation question, you should not leave here today without it being answered. You have everybody that can answer your questions here today. I want to give just a brief update or a brief comment on economic conditions here in Clay County. And some of these numbers I've repeated so many times, most of y'all probably have them down, but Clay County has a population of approximately 200,000 people. 50% of those people are in the labor force, so 102,000. We're fortunate our unemployment rate in Clay County is very low right now, right at about 5.1%, so 95% of those 102,000 people have a job. That's 97,000 people that have a job in Clay County. The downside of that is we only have 45,000 jobs in Clay County, which creates the commuter crisis that everybody that is on 17 or Blanding in the AM or PM peak time is well aware of. Those jobs have an unfortunately low average wage, $32,600 per year. Believe it or not, in the 7-county region from Nassau County down to Flagler over to Baker, that is the 5th lowest average wage in the region. The only 2 counties that have a lower average wage than Clay County are Baker County and Flagler County. That's what I consider to be my mission, my job, is to try to move those numbers. And as you know, that is a pretty monumental task. And obviously I can't do it alone. The people in this room, regional, statewide, all will have an impact on that. But there is a silver lining to that. Clay County has the 3rd highest average household income in the region. The reason people leave here is to go into Duval County, and where the average wage is $45,000 a year. The average household income in Clay County is $56,600 a year. St. Johns County leads at $64,000. Nassau County is $57,100. So if we could just get a few hundred more dollars on ours, we'd be at number 2. The interesting thing, though, in doing some research on this, just for comparison, Ponte Vedra, zip code 32081, has an average household income of $76,000. Ponte Vedra Beach, $84,000. This is the one that'll surprise you. Fleming Island, 32003, $90,400, has a higher average household income than both Ponte Vedra and Ponte Vedra Beach. So one of the things that we talk about from a quality of life perspective is we need more restaurants here. And so folks in this room that go out and eat, if you're in your favorite restaurant, let the guy that runs that restaurant or the lady that runs that restaurant know that Fleming Island has the highest average household income in the region. So, and they can come and be successful right here in Clay County with their restaurant. A couple of brief comments on some projects. I will just, 1 year ago today, we were here, Governor Scott was here to announce the R.J. Corman announcement, and they have occupied space here and are currently working and hiring employees. And just on August the 1st, we had a new manufacturer open shop down in Green Cove Springs, Building Component Supply. It's a truss plant and wall panel plant. He's hiring 60 employees with an average wage right at about what our average is about $33,000 is his average wage. And a couple of the projects that we're working on. Mike Butler, president of Chase Bank, regional city president, is here, Mr. Butler. Chase Bank is a financial sponsor of a project called the Global Cities Initiative. It is a 5-year project to promote international trade of cities around the globe. And Clay County is a financial supporter. The EDC is a supporter of that. I attend the meetings once a month, and it's an exciting initiative where exporters have higher average wages, grow faster than non-exporters, and they are more stable through the economic recession. So there are a lot of reasons companies should be exporting. People don't do it because they're afraid of it. That's what the research has shown. JU did a lot of research for us and provided that information back. Just a couple weeks ago, with the county manager's help and Ms. Parrish's help, we had a delegation here with Enterprise Florida from South Africa, a trade delegation from South Africa. We brought 4 local businesses in to meet with them. All 4 had either done business in South Africa or wanted to do business in South Africa. So we were able to bring those companies together. One of those companies, Ed Gaw with Highliner, is here. AET, a solar panel manufacturer down in Green Cove Springs, has got some really exciting expansion plans in the works, multi-million-dollar type of a project that is still in the works, so I don't want to say too much more about that. So be aware that if you know of a company that is interested in exporting, that wants to grow and participate in the growth of the international market, please let them know that we have resources available to them. Enterprise Florida, the U.S. Department of Commerce, all have resources available for free to help them grow their business. So that's another initiative that this organization is supporting. And just a couple days ago, these leads that we get kind of come in drips and drabs. You never know. You go 2 or 3 weeks and never hear a word, and all of a sudden the phone rings. That happened yesterday morning, as a matter of fact. Ended up on a conference call with our partners from Jax USA and Enterprise Florida, talking about another international company looking seriously. We're on the short list for bring a manufacturing facility to Clay County that would bring in 100 employees to start with. So there are some good things happening. The recession was brutal. We all know what a dark financial winter that was for a lot of people, but the spring is here, I believe. Things are looking up. Unemployment is down. Our average wage, still low, is trending upwards. So a lot of good things going on in our economy. And today, the best thing is all of you guys being here, and I really appreciate it. We are videotaping today's presentation, and we'll send an email out. It'll be posted on YouTube. You'll be able to access it through our website. And so I want to take just a couple seconds and thank the sponsors. Everybody knows that these events are funded in big part by the sponsors. Baptist Health has been our title sponsor all year. And so thank you very much, Darren. You guys are right here, right in front of me. And Bob Gager is their chaplain. He opened our meeting today with the invocation and the pledge. Our corporate sponsors, Clay Today, RS&H is always here, stands by us, and Community Hospice, thank you very much for participating today. And a couple of personal thank yous. Alan Mosley, are you in the room, Alan? Did you find a seat? Right here, very good. Alan Mosley was the guy that put all this together behind the scenes, got in touch with Secretary Evans, Jeff Sheffield, Moody Chisholm, exchanged bios, exchanged questions back and forth, so thank you very much, Alan. I appreciate that. And Virginia, thank you very much for getting Moody here with us today, so thank you guys very much. With that, I appreciate, again, you guys being here. Olivia is going to give you guys a couple minutes to enjoy your salad, and then we'll have another great lunch sponsored by Executive Food Service. Thank you very much.
So I'd like to take this minute and introduce our keynote speaker, and it's a man of great accomplishment, Moody Chisholm. Moody Chisholm is the Chief Executive Officer for St. Vincent's Healthcare. They have 5,000 associates and 1,000 physicians on their staff payroll, and that work with them. So it's a big operation. Prior to joining St. Vincent's, he was with Universal Health Services for 24 years in Florida, Texas, South Carolina, and Louisiana. He's on more boards than I was in my heyday, so I'm not going to list them all. It would take the whole rest of the day. But he's on the Jax Chamber of Commerce, Jax USA Partnership, Community Hospice Board, FHA board member, the Jacksonville Sports Council board member, and that's like about 10% of them. So without further ado, and to keep the schedule going, Moody, it's all yours.
Well, thank you. It's certainly my pleasure to have an opportunity to speak to such an influential group, because this is a very influential group and really a group of friends. I see so many friends in the room, and I'm thankful to have the opportunity to come speak to you today. Also, I'm happy to be here with a number of my colleagues in healthcare from Baptist Health and from Orange Park. Thank you all for being here as well. And I know that transportation might be something that you're wondering, why is the CEO of a hospital the chair of the Northeast Florida Transportation Alliance for Business? And so I thought I'd talk a little bit about that today. Now I got to figure out which button. There we go. First, one of the things, obviously, you heard Jerry mention a minute ago, we have 5,000 associates that need to get to our facilities somehow, and physicians, about 1,000 physicians across all of our entities that need to get there as well. And we want that to be a convenient and easily accessible experience for them, because that keeps their costs down and that helps us to recruit. Also, as you see up here, we've got a lot of patients that are trying to access our facilities, and for everybody in this room, making it easy for customers to access your businesses is critical to your success, and I would say it has a lot to do with your success. And without reading through everything here, I'll just also mention that our mobile health ministry travels all over the area to serve people throughout the 5-county region. And as you can see up here, we spend a lot of money on supplies every year, $150 million in supplies that come from all over the place. And so they come by ship, they come by truck, they come by train, and they come by all kinds of vehicles. And then, of course, we have our ambulance service. 35 ambulances that put more than 2 million miles on our roads every year in this area. So that's pretty important for our health system, that we have access, easy access, and good transportation in the community. There are a lot of different areas of transportation that we keep an eye on in the Transportation Alliance, in the Business Alliance. I happen to also be on the Mayor's Port Task Force that's looking at the deepening of the harbor, or of the river right now to bring larger ships into our area. And that is such a critical discussion, because obviously we want to make sure that we maintain the beautiful waterways in our area. And at the same time, it's critical to us from an economic standpoint that we find a way to attract these huge ships from the Asian continent that come to this area and that can bring a lot of additional jobs and business to our community. And so we're looking at that carefully. You can see we have 3 major railroads in the area as well, the interstates and the international and regional airports that serve us in this area. What the North Florida Business Alliance wants to be is the informed voice from business leaders for what we need to focus on in transportation. You know, I was speaking before this event a little bit to one of the speakers that you'll hear from today, and what I heard about that you are aware of is that there's a big difference between the revenues we have available to fund projects and the projects that we want to get done. And because of that variance, it is critical that we get business leaders like yourselves to come together and provide a unified voice for our legislators, for the DOT, and for other governmental agencies, other public agencies, about where we believe our investment needs to be focused. And we want to do this in a manner that spreads it across everything, not just our highways and roadways, but all the different areas that are important to us, and we'll talk about that as we go through this slide. So I won't read through everything there, but you can see also a focus on environmental stewardship. I referenced that earlier. And making sure that we have a safe area for people to enjoy being outdoors in our communities. That helps us to recruit employees and people to this community. I can tell you that, you know, I hate it every time one of these magazines, Men's Health or whatever, comes out with a listing of the healthiest communities, and we're low on the list because we have a lack of access to biking paths and walking paths in our communities. So that's another area that may not be at the top of your list, but it's important for us to pay attention to as business leaders. And you know, setting up the right transportation system is a very long process. I was speaking to one of the folks that is speaking today earlier, and he shall remain nameless, but he was sharing with me that he's thought through how long it's going to take to get this Outer Beltway done, and he figures he'll be driving on it when he's in his 80s. And I said it's a little depressing to think about it that way, but unfortunately it is a long process to address what we want in world-class mobility for this area. And as we reference up here, elections bring new political leaders to the area. Policymakers come and go. However, this alliance should be a consistent, informed voice of business over time, and it should surpass the periods that someone may be in an office or in a position with the state, or even with the federal government. We want to make sure that we keep a consistent, innovative voice so that we can advance this region economically and as a place to live. And we're lucky, obviously, to have so many leaders here today in this community, and I'm starting from the bottom up, but obviously we have a lot of wonderful leaders that are here today to support our efforts in addressing the transportation needs of this area. And we're thankful for our public leaders and the work they're doing to help us in this area to advance Clay County and the surrounding areas. It's important, though, that we focus their efforts on our bottleneck issues. We have quite a few here in Clay County, and I know you'll hear later about a lot of the work that's going on to reduce those bottlenecks. Also, we've got a lot of aging infrastructure and work that needs to be done to improve that. I talked earlier about the deepening of the harbor. And of course, we have a lack of urban centers, areas where we can travel and work, enjoy outdoor activities, enjoy community activities, and that are easily accessible, and access and egress is good for all those that are attending. Finally, we want to make sure on this page that we are establishing a process to ensure constant feedback from the leaders in this community, not just in this room, but throughout this community, and that we are collaborating with the public sector on the important issues that will help us advance to a world-class mobility community. This just gives you some statistics related to what is good and what makes a difference. Now, for us at St. Vincent's Healthcare, we are so thankful for the Outer Beltway coming in. It was a big part of how we located our new St. Vincent's Clay County facility. That will make it very easy for people to access our hospital in that area, and we know that we'll be able to serve a wide variety of clientele where we're located. But it's going to be important for all of you. I would suspect that it was important to Baptist when they located where they did, the potential of extending this, and I know Orange Park's looking at it, and all the other businesses, non-healthcare businesses in this area, are paying attention to where these exchanges will be associated with the Outer Beltway. That's going to be important for expanding this community. It will draw people to this community. It'll draw all kinds of business to this community as we complete that project. And then, of course, the harbor deepening will do the same. It's going to bring new employees to the area, new business to the area. We know it will bring a lot of facilities to the area that are related to transportation. And in addition to the beautiful community that we have, the waterways in the area, the beach, the wonderful weather that we have here, the nice community that we have here, the friendly environment that we have, I was really pleased to hear earlier from the folks at Highliner that recently relocated here from South Florida that their health insurance costs went down, and I'd like to think that it was because the healthcare providers in this area are so efficient that we helped them to drive down their cost of healthcare. But there's all kinds of positive reasons for moving to this region of the state, and we want to add to that by having these efficient transportation mechanisms. And then to end up here, Cecil Airport, obviously, the accessibility of that helps us to further expand all the businesses that are out there, which is great for this community. And as I mentioned earlier, the strong private and public leadership that we have supporting all this. So our next steps with the Alliance are to establish our board of directors, and let me just very quickly ask Alan Mosley to stand up real quickly, if you would. Alan is the CEO of the Transportation Alliance, and I want you all to see his face, because if any of you are interested in getting involved in the Business Alliance, I'd like for you to speak to him. Now, most likely, Alan, you've probably reached out to a lot of these people already, haven't you? And so if he hasn't and you're interested, please reach out to Alan. We'd like to get as many people involved as possible in this. Thank you, Alan. And so as I said, we want to begin to engage that business community in what our short-term and long-term focus areas should be. And we want to develop a website and promotional material so that people can follow what we're doing, what are the areas of innovation that we're focusing on, so that they can get involved or at least know where we're headed as a community. Now we have one of the good things about today, and by the way, let me say this first. It's important for me to say this. I love the Jaguars. Having said that, I will tell you that the good news about today is this presentation is going to get stronger at the end, as opposed to the game last weekend. And so, having said that, I want to invite our distinguished panel of speakers up here. First, I'd like to ask Greg Evans to come forward. He's from FDOT. He's our secretary for Region 2. And Kim Holland, if you'd please come up, the vice president of RS&H. Jeff Sheffield, the executive director of the Northeast Florida Transportation Organization, and Brad Thoburn, the vice president of long range planning for JTA. If y'all would come up, and I'll give you a little bit of. Let me just speak very quickly about each of them, if I could, and I'll keep this brief. Greg was appointed as the Florida Department of Transportation District 2 Secretary effective February 6th of 2012. He is responsible for the day-to-day administration, planning, production, and operations activities for District 2, which encompasses 18 counties, covers 12,000 square miles in North Florida, maintains 8,200 lane miles of roadway and over 1,200 bridges. And he has over 20 years of experience in management and operations of public infrastructure. Kim Holland, the vice president of RS&H, has served in the Jacksonville community in the area of Jacksonville and infrastructure. And the Jacksonville TI practice offers a full range of services for all modes of transportation, including transportation planning and development, GIS, preliminary engineering and design, bridges, environmental, water resources, and permitting. Kim has managed numerous projects locally with budgets of over $100 million and teams involved with over 100 engineers and professionals. She's a graduate of UF with a Bachelor of Science in Engineering and is a registered professional engineer in Florida and Georgia. And there's much more to be said about her as well, but I'll trim it down a little at her request. And Jeff Sheffield, the executive director of the North Florida Transportation Planning Organization. That is an independent planning agency for Clay, Duval, Nassau, and St. Johns counties, and it provides a regional forum for developing an effective transportation system that moves people and goods safely, economically, and efficiently, maintaining a high quality of life in North Florida. It is responsible for producing the region's transportation improvement program and long-range transportation plan. And then finally, Brad Thoburn is the Vice President in Planning for Development for JTA. He has served in a leadership capacity with JTA since 2010 and is responsible for the short and long-term transit and transportation system planning and production efforts of JTA. Prior to his work at JTA, he served as Florida's Transportation Planning Development Administrator for the FDOT and as Director of the City of Jacksonville's Planning and Development Department. So, mouthful for all these folks. Let me first say that, as I talked about earlier, we at St. Vincent's Healthcare saw the value of locating where we did because of this wonderful outer beltway that we're working on right now that will mean so much to this community. And I want to start off with Brad and ask, how can JTA and Clay County form a better partnership that helps commuters and with Clay Transit as well?
Certainly. I guess I do need to get this close. Is this on? Okay. Well, JTA and Clay County and Clay Transit specifically we do work very close with each other, and we have for some time now. And I think the key is that as we move forward, we look at we have to have a more regional view in terms of public transportation. Generally, JTA provides, I mean, we provide transit service in Jacksonville, but we've also begun to work with the neighboring counties, both Clay and St. John's, and having conversations with Nassau County. We assisted with the construction of the park and ride facility on the Black Creek Park and Ride on County Road 220, and we've built a partnership with Clay County in terms of providing the express service that goes from that park and ride to downtown Jacksonville. We're also, some of the services like the Oakleaf Community Shuttle, which reach out to the Oakleaf area, and are things that we've done because of our partnership with Clay County and Clay Transit. I think as we move in the future, one of the challenges we have to deal with is, we have different systems out there today, and this is very normal. You have the Clay County COA runs their local transit service, and so they provide local service. JTA provides local service, and the challenge is, how do you make those different systems connect up in terms of developing a more regional system? And it doesn't mean that, there's different approaches. Some places say, well, just, the local services continue, and then you have regional services that overlay and connect them. And then other places like Orlando say everything is done by one entity. And that's a conversation I think we need to have, is what's the vision for transit in the Northeast Florida region, and how do we implement that vision?
Thank you, Brad. And let me ask Greg Evans to talk a little bit about, I'm sure everybody here is interested in about the timing and scheduling of the First Coast Expressway.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. It's my first opportunity to be in such a gathering today, and with my colleagues here. In the great words of Forrest Gump, we sure hope we don't let you down. As we go into tomorrow, let's all be remembering and be in prayer for our nation and our men and women in uniform as we observe the terrorist attacks of 9/11. So I'd be amiss if I didn't have the opportunity to mention that to you. We talk about the First Coast Expressway. First Coast Expressway. We changed that from Outer Beltway. First Coast Expressway.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Without the great support of our, Governor Scott and our lawmakers over in Tallahassee, supporting our budget, our work program, and our transportation bills, we wouldn't have the investments that we have available today to invest in our communities and our transportation systems across the state. So the First Coast Expressway has had many names over the years. It's been on the drawing board for well over 30 years. In my 2.5 years of being with FDOT in this capacity, it's been one of the highlights of our projects that we spotlighted. And we, Jeff, if you remember back when Secretary Prasad came to our TPO board, gave a presentation on the First Coast Expressway, and said, all right, guys, we have it funded. We've done some creative finance through funds available with Turnpike. Are you ready to break ground? And by unanimous decision of the TPO board, it was decided that, yes, they would like to recommend FDOT move forward. And I'll tell you, that level of cooperation that we have with our partners in Northeast Florida is unlike anything in all of Florida. My counterparts that I meet with on a monthly basis, usually in Tallahassee or Orlando area, they tell me the horrors of the conflicts they have between counties and the various authorities and with the purpose and goal of the department. And I sit back and smile. I don't have those problems, and it makes my job a lot easier than some of my counterparts have. But and also with this level of cooperation that we have in Northeast Florida, we have been able, Tallahassee has recognized this. Department of Transportation has recognized this. So when there are funds available, when revenues exceed expectations, we are there. We've got a project in mind. We've got a plan. We've got a unified effort. We've got a unified voice. And that voice has secured over $600 million in advanced funding that were projects that were outside of our work program, which means they were on the drawing board only. We've brought those into the 5-year work program and advanced those. And I'll tell you, with Stephanie's efforts, she is a great voice for your area. Don't let her get your cell number. But I do appreciate the guidance that Stephanie has been able to provide me in my short tenure here, and I hope to continue that, and I hope to continue with under your guidance, Stephanie, that maybe keep me in the straight and narrow. So we're trying to figure out which one of us should earn hazard pay. So keeping it back to the focus of the First Coast Expressway, again, 30 years on the drawing board. We are under construction from I-10 down to 21 to Blanding under 2 separate contracts, around $160 million investment being made there with the unanimous decision of the TPO board. Currently, we are fully funded for all right-of-way acquisition from Blanding River Crossing over to I-95 through my fiscal years 18. So with that being said, I do not have construction funded at this date. We are, again, looking at opportunities to utilize creative funding from Turnpike, utilizing our Turnpike dollars to make this investment, what the state, the gap between what the actual cost is going to be and what the state can afford out of its trust fund and put in this project. Turnpike owes me a report in October for the total revenue study of the portion from 17 River Crossing over to 95. And this morning I received hand-delivered a correspondence from Stephanie from Coach Davis. Coach Davis has asked that I take a look at a detailed total revenue study from Blanding down to 17 and look at opportunities for the creative funding through Turnpike and through the trust fund, what we can do to expedite the construction of that area. So that being said, there's been all kind of financial arrangements this has taken a look at the First Coast Expressway over the number of years. And I'll commit to you as Clay County that we are, Coach Davis, we are going to move forward with a detailed total revenue study from Blanding down to 17. And we'll see where that comes out. It's going to be a financial decision. I mean, really, without the Turnpike dollars, the general fund, the transportation fund will not be able to afford this project for many years out. So when we get that information, we'll report back at that time and see what direction we're going to go in.
Thank you, Greg. Jeff Sheffield, can you talk a little bit about the importance of private sector involvement in setting the focus for the future, and how effective can we be?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges, I don't know, I'll just talk really loud, I'll try to. We've seen the value of need for a business alliance for quite a while. You referenced in your initial comments about the needs of the region being much greater than the revenues that we have. And to put that into numbers, as the TPO, we conduct a long-range transportation plan every 5 years. We're about to adopt in November the new one that's looking out to 2040. When we look at that estimates, we're looking at about $27 billion in transportation needs to account for the 4-county Northeast Florida area that we represent. When we look at the revenue for that same time frame, we're talking about $7.8 billion. So you can see a substantial gap in need versus revenue, roughly $20 billion to account for that. And that includes all modes, transit, bike ped, roadway, uses of technology, and the like. As Greg mentioned, the partnerships, we've had tremendous partnerships with DOT. I'd say the last decade alone has just shown what can happen on the public sector side if we partner and work together. We have a board, regional board, your representatives here, and Commissioner Conkey and Commissioner Hutchings see how the board operates with 4 counties and how these commissioners and elected officials work together. Then when we start looking at the next step, how can we leverage more and generate more, and how can we focus on making sure that those limited revenue sources are spent on those projects that are most important? It is to add the business component to it. The business community, those who are in need of it, the examples you've expressed with the hospital is something that relates, I think, to every business. Everybody has a truck or some vehicle, something in transportation affecting their business, and consequently it's common sense then to have the business community behind these priorities and to help set them, which I think in the past when we look at the times that business community joins in is really after a project has been put together, and it may be a big one, and so we start reaching out to help campaign. So you come in and you sort of buy into it, but you don't have the history of it, the background in transportation, the understanding of it. And I think behind the Business Alliance and bringing you in to be involved every step of the way, to understand it, not just at moments in time, but over time, and be able to input into the process is really the next step. And frankly, it's about competition. It's about competition with South Florida. It's about competition in Tallahassee. And it certainly doesn't hurt to have the force of the business community behind that, too.
Thank you, Jeff. You said a lot better than I did, so I appreciate that. And Kim, let me ask you, what is the economic benefit? What kind of economic benefit do you expect for Clay County from the First Coast Expressway, which, by the way, I called it Outer Beltway for years, so you got to give me a little time to change that in my head.
You know, before I answer that question, can y'all hear me? I think that the business community and the residents of Clay County, you are most positioned for success in transportation today because of the leaders that are sitting before you, with Secretary Evans and Jeff and Brad and Moody and Alan and Doug and Stephanie. And let's give them a round of applause real quick. As Secretary Evans talked, the First Coast Expressway is under construction right now. Clay County is the largest county that does not have an interstate system. So really, the First Coast Expressway is going to be the biggest economic driver for this area. There's a lot of different improvements that Clay County is going to see from this construction, and you're seeing a lot of it right now. Ultimately, there's going to be new interconnectivity between Penny Farms, Green Cove Springs, Middleburg. You'll see a spur in residential development because of that. You are seeing an immediate economic improvement right now because of the construction. There's an immediate workforce that's in place. People are eating, they're paying for meals, they need lodging, and there's a lot of other general services that are being utilized. Also, with the new part of the construction that we'll see in 2019 and 2020, the other segment from Blanding over to St. Johns County I-95, you will see the construction of the new St. Johns River Bridge. There's a vertical clearance with the existing Shands Bridge that's about 45 feet. The new bridge will be 65 feet. So we'll see some economic opportunities from intermodal movement, shipping, movement into Palatka. So I'm going to read a couple numbers to you that I think are really interesting. There's actually an index that registers what those time and those savings are to the Clay County community. And it's expected that there will be 280,000 hours saved once the First Coast Expressway is put into place. That's a lot. The annual cost of congestion takes into account the time savings for you getting somewhere faster and also your savings that you would spend on fuel. So by the year 2035, that savings is $5.4 billion. So the people of Clay County will have more discretionary income that you'll be able to spend right back into your economy. So Moody, I thank you.
That's a great answer, Kim.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I have about 20 more questions, and we have 5 more minutes. So I want to see if anybody from the audience has a question for any of our speakers today.
I got one.
Yes, sure.
This is where Secretary Evans, when the whole thing is done, right, and you get to the other end at I-95, does that force an improvement of that section of 95, or can it handle it now?
The First Coast Express is tied into I-95.
Yeah.
Day one, we have a capacity need for improvements to I-95 from the proposed interchange of First Coast Express north to 295. And that is a commitment that we have made with the Federal Highway Administration, that when we can make the connection, whether it be 95 over to 17 or 95 all the way over up to Blanding, that we have to make those, or be underway with making those improvements to I-95. Right now, our estimate is in excess of $200 million for that capacity improvement to I-95.
The questions from the audience. Yes, sir.
When you were talking, when you were talking about the priority of the Beltway and and the Turnpike Authority really looks at how, what's the most cost-effective, the one that makes the most money, the Turnpike Authority, because it helps on the bonding and everything else. But do you know how we rank compared to all the other projects in the state? Because I'm assuming the Turnpike Authority has to evaluate all the other projects too.
From an overall statewide perspective, I do not. I do know that Turnpike has taken on a priority of First Coast Expressway. So we are at the top of the stack, if you will, for review and commitment because of the length of time that this project has been on the drawing board, the length of time that we have been committed to moving forward with the construction of First Coast Expressway. And then it gets down to the finance. What is that return on investment? And is it the entire section from 21 to 95, 21 to 17, or 17 to 95?
I have one more question on here that I'm guessing people would like to hear the answer to, if it's even possible. And that is, what is the best estimate on when the First Coast Expressway will be completed?
As I stated earlier, our finance for right-of-way acquisition is financed current year through FY18. So we've been on the ground for a while making the appraisals. We're making offers now, and there's actually hundreds of parcels that we have to acquire out there. And with the remaining permitting aspects, the mitigations, wetland mitigation, wildlife mitigation that we have to move through, right now I'm shooting a target for year 2020.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Secretary, I'm from Alabama, and I'm thinking Alabama term, so I guess my first question I'd like to ask you is when do I need to go buy my SunPath repeater?
Those are easily accessible. You can stop by Walgreens or CVS, and in fact, 2 years ago, there were already some 70 or 80,000 SunPath owners in Northeast Florida. So.
But those terminals are, when do you think those will be up for you to be able to use those? When are you going to start collecting tolls?
Day one.
That was a pretty slick answer right there.
Jeff just made a good point. When we the opportunity you have for the SunPath when we open the express lanes on 295 from Buckman around to 95. That will be the first express lane project that's under construction now. And then if you want to travel 21 north of the I-10, then that'll be the opportunity there as well. So those will be completing about the same time.
Time for one more question. Anybody have a, yes, sir?
Anyway, first of all, we can take a few minutes. Everybody, if you have a question, please get your question answered before you leave today, either now or after. I want to take just a second and recognize Rudy Candace and Cheryl Herzog from the Council on Aging. They run the Clay Transit. Brad mentioned the parking ride that we have on College Drive. Clay County, if I'm wrong on this number, Drew, get me correct, but we have 6 different bus lines that run throughout Clay County. And it connects at the 2JTA, at least at the parking lot. I don't know, maybe a couple of locations.
Yeah, there's a couple locations.
Yeah, so, but I just want everybody to know, please pass the word. Drew, go ahead.
We actually operate 38 vehicles, 6 bus lines in paratransit also, which is door-to-door transit.
Those are the kind of miniature bus or the half-size bus that you see running around. A lot of people associated with just moving patients around, what have you. Those are available to the public. And you'll see some say red line, blue line, purple line. What's the rate to, how much does it cost to ride a bus?
Flex route is $1.
$1. So please, if you know people that need public transportation, let them know. They have a great website. You can print off the maps, you can print off the schedules. So I just wanted to make sure that we got that point out today.
Very good. Thank you. I do have one other question on here that I thought might be worthy for our education. Can you all speak about, not just for the First Coast Expressway, but for a lot of these transportation products that we're looking at, what are some of the agencies that we would need to interact with for any of you that as we are trying to influence policy and activity?
When we're talking First Coast Expressway and regionally significant projects like that, you're talking about a limited number of agencies, and that's the beauty of this region. When we stepped back a few years ago, many of you may have heard about the Regional Transportation Study Commission. In fact, in the early stages, many of those meetings were held out here. And a lot of that conversation evolved around looking at it from the perspective of a lot of these regional authorities were established around the country. And the reason they were established in many ways is to be an umbrella, because there were so many different transportation agencies working within the area, and there's a need to coordinate them. And while we still saw some value in creating a commission that's standing up, one of the things that it really wasn't for was to umbrella agencies. Because when we look at Northeast Florida in the transportation setting, we're talking about three: the JTA, the TPO, and the DOT. And then you can add the regional council in concept as they review DRIs and that sort of thing. But doing regional transportation and affecting the region, it's three. So it's easy to get there. And because the coordination exists, it's really easy, because to be quite honest, if you talk to any one of us, you're in some ways talking to all of us. Right. And that's the thing that I don't think we can really overstate what Greg mentions when he goes and talks around the state, because the disconnect that exists between those district DOTs and their local governments and their MPOs, which we are one of 26 in the state, the disconnect that is there, and therefore the hindrance to move projects forward is so challenging. And it's because you have many agencies. And so with the few that are here and the fact that everybody's on the same page, it's really helped us move projects. And that's why this discretionary $600 million that could have gone somewhere else comes here, because the projects are ready and available. So that's the importance of it. And I think our participants on these regional boards are starting to see that. We're leveraging funds. We're seeing how we can do that. When we had this stretch of a tough economy, we were still moving projects here, just in a different way. We couldn't count on the DOT to fully fund a $30 or $50 million project. So now you piece together some DOT funds and some funds from Tallahassee and some funds from the TPO and the JTA doing studies with us as well. And we can leverage projects that in the past would still just be sitting. And we have infinite examples of that. Several segments of Landing Boulevard that are being improved now to the Outer Beltway Expressway are an example of leveraging. If you go in and actually look at the funding sources, which won't mean anything to you, but the reality is those funding sources are from multiple agencies. It's not just the DOT. We've been able to work together. If it's the JIA North Access Road near the airport, if it's the Baldwin bypass in Baldwin now to connect 301, these are all projects that are leveraging funds from multiple agencies, and that's how we'll move this forward. And I'm going to add one more thing. I have to add this caveat, and I'm going to announce the meeting that's next Wednesday in your community. With our long-range plan, and we talk about $8 billion is what we have with 27 or so billion in needs. Next Wednesday will be probably the most important public meeting of our long-range plan process that's been going on now for about a year. And it is that time where we are presenting what we think we want to spend the $8 billion on over the next 20 years, and those are going to be all modes. Next Wednesday, Fleming Island High, 5 to 7. That's the opportunity for you to come or share with your TPO board members your thoughts so that they can bring it. They're going to be talking about it tomorrow in an extended time frame in the meeting. And this is where we need your input to make sure that we're thinking about the right projects, because these are the projects for the next 20 years. And those projects are the only ones that can receive federal dollars in Northeast Florida. So if it's not in that plan, it is not eligible for federal dollars. So it's a very important meeting next week.
Great. Thank you. Excellent information. Any other questions for right now? If not, I'll thank Brad and Jeff, Greg, and Kim. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Moody and this distinguished panel, because it's been great and very informative. I do have to fess up for one thing. Earlier, Moody had said that there was somebody that said they would be driving on the Beltway when they're in their 80s. That was me. Trust me, that's not that far away, but that's not the depressing part. The depressing part was Moody said by that time they'll probably take your license away. So one more thing, and I would like some input from you guys because we have an option on the table. We can either have the next quarterly meeting the early part of December or the early part of January. So by a show of hands, who would like it in December? Who would like it in January? The next meeting will be in January. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming.